All right. Quoting Steve, we live in a cartoon. We do. I titled this section, Biden claims the U.S. kills ISIS leader in Syria. Wait a sec. Wait. Didn't Trump do the same?
Apparently he did. And there's video evidence of that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Of him talking about
it. Let's jump to slide number 7. Trump says ISIS leader killed in a military assault. And so 3 children of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi also killed in a raid in Syria's Idlib province, the U.S. president says. Now, that's something I want you to pay attention to over here. We're going to play the video, but they announced before when they got this guy, 3 of his children also died as well. And just watch Donald Trump talk about this. I believe this was in 2019, late October 2019. Take a look at Donald Trump bragging about how the guy was a weasel and how they got him. Go ahead, Oz.
He died like a dog. He died like a coward. He was whimpering, screaming, and crying. And frankly, I think it's something that should be brought out so that his followers and all of these young kids that want to leave various countries, including the United States, they should see how he died. He didn't die a hero. He died a coward, crying, whimpering, screaming, and bringing 3 kids with him to die, certain death. And he knew the tunnel had no end. I mean, it was a closed end. They call it a closed end tunnel. Not a good place to be.
Franco, I'm going to get you let you start off with your impressions of hearing that right away, because to me, it's just like, here we go again, the puffing up the chest, especially of a guy who didn't spend a goddamn fucking day in the military. In fact, got his daddy to get him out of the military so he didn't have to go fight in a war. Go ahead, Franco.
He wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think he'd be able to do that himself, like kill somebody in front of them. Or maybe he would. I don't know. But he seems like he's not empathetic enough. I don't often talk about Trump on my show because the mainstream media already does it for me. Like, you already know a lot of the bad stuff about Trump, although they don't criticize him legitimately about other stuff like this or about how he advances imperialism. Now, Pasta, who was this individual that he was talking about? What was he leading in Syria? Just so that people can understand. And also myself, I'm not too familiar.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. This particular guy, and I was talking about with somebody from the region yesterday, that he was an actual leader of ISIS for a long time. Like, he was a known guy, like, pretty much, and he had been detained once before by the American forces, tortured, and then let go. And they hit him over there in the province near Idlib. This is that province of Syria, which is pretty much got a lot of ISIS people living there and whatnot, where U.S. forces are still there. They have protection from some, I think, Turkish backing in this area, whatnot. But this particular individual was somebody high up on the chain of supports, supposedly, of ISIS. But the thing to remember, though, Franco, is that we funded ISIS in Syria. So it's like we create this fucking false dichotomy that this is really kind of like an enemy combatant. Meanwhile, we funded him, his operation, and ISIS, and then we go fund the military, if not private contractors now, because there's a lot of military private contractors running all around Syria, Iraq, and all these other countries right now, Afghanistan. And so we just create this constant wheel of death that once we remove this leader, who's next in his place, we'll remove them. And then, to me, which we're going to see in this next clip, the press, how they go about it. I mean, 3 people died. 3 children died when we killed the first guy, right? When Trump got it. And they talk about if it's nothing, and they just put it off on the ISIS leader as if he's responsible for these deaths. No, we are. We're responsible for these children dying, are we not?
Yeah, we are. That's the standard pattern, is to create a boogeyman when there otherwise was not a boogeyman, or if there is a problem in that country, we should let the people of that country deal with it because they have their sovereignty. We should respect that. But what the U.S. does, like you said, is they fund terrorist organizations, then they paint that as a boogeyman, as a reason for why we should invade that country. Like, oh, look at what they're doing to their people. That wouldn't have happened if you had not fed them. If you had fed those terrorist organizations to grow into what they are, the levels of dangers that they become.
Yeah.
So this right here, what is this? U.S. raid in Syria targeted the leader of ISIS, Biden says. So we're continuing the same thing under Biden?
Yeah, it's almost the same thing. That's why I have on the thumbnail. He's like, Trump was like, I got him, and Biden's like, no, let me one up you. You know, Biden got him in the beginning of his 4-year I'm so sorry. There was a plane flying out really close right there. I know it was like a joke. Biden got him in the first year of his right at the end of his first year of his term, right? So I think that Biden, because this was like 2.5 years later from they got the first guy, right? I think Biden could be one of the first presidents to kill 2 head leaders of ISIS in Syria ever and set a world record. But this part right here is kind of disturbing because I just wanted to play it. Go ahead.
But before you play that, you mentioned the 3 children that died. Yeah. I was seeing people that are justifying the action of killing children in these other countries, in the Middle East especially. They say, oh, well, these are children that otherwise would have become terrorists themselves or would have killed people. These aren't the kind of children that we know from here in the US that just go to playgrounds or just want to play sports. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's disgusting. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that is really, I mean, and what's it about, Franco? Team sports, right? When Trump was in there, they justified it. Now Biden does it. Biden did it in Afghanistan, right? Then everybody on Trump's team is yelling about the kids. It's like, it's just about team sports. Americans are so far removed from this situation because it doesn't happen on their home front, right? The military is not out there just doing what they're doing like they are in these other countries. But just wait a little bit because the military is coming back home to roost and their tactics are now being used in the United States. That's why we've always highlighted these issues when it comes to imperialism, because it will come home eventually. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come home eventually. Like the problems grow there. And then we're like what we saw with Afghanistan, right? And then we're like, oh, we got to do something about those people now. Now that the Taliban has grown and everything. But yeah, and then our military budget increases when that could have been used to help us. Here. But
well, let's pay attention in this here. This is by News Nation. I want you to pay attention to the rhetoric of the media, because now it's just like when it's death, it's not death of children or civilians. They're very catty about it, right? Very cavalier. And I think it's disgusting because it's part of the propaganda and programming of America when it comes to our mainstream media. That's what these people have become. They've become stenographers for the deep state, for the military industrial complex, and all these other corporations. And it is mass psychosis and programming. Take a look at this video here. Just watch how they sound. News Nation.
Today, Pentagon officials are calling the overnight killing of the leader of ISIS a serious blow to the Islamic State group. It happened as part of a U.S. Special Forces counterterrorism raid in northwestern Syria. And Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer is live for us at the nation's capital. Now, Kelly, civilians, including women and children, were also killed in that raid, but the U.S. is calling it a success.
Nicole, officials say there were no U.S. casualties, and the Pentagon adds that months of planning and reconnaissance saved the lives of 10 people, including 4 children. They're blaming the civilian deaths on the ISIS leader when he blew himself up as U.S. commandos closed in. This is where U.S. Special Forces found Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi, the leader of ISIS. These photos provided by the Pentagon show the complex before the ISIS leader set off the explosives Thursday morning and after, his wife and 2 children inside with him when the bomb went off. More inside the building died, as well as 2 outside during what the Pentagon calls a hostile encounter when a small group outside the compound attacked U.S. forces. All told, the Pentagon says 13 civilian lives were lost, including 6 women and 4 children. The raid comes after a botched drone strike killed an Afghan family in August during the chaotic withdrawal from Kabul. And today, the president said he made the call to send in commandos instead of a drone or airstrike to minimize the number of civilian deaths. Again, no U.S. casualties, but the Pentagon confirming an American helicopter had a mechanical malfunction and was destroyed. I asked the Pentagon spokesperson about that today.
You mentioned the mechanical issue on the helicopter. Those involved okay, and any other issues we aren't aware of, or did everything run like clockwork?
It wasn't a crash landing. They landed safely. Again, it was a drivetrain issue that rendered that helicopter unusable for the rest of the operation. So obviously it was destroyed, but the crew are safe and sound.
And al-Qurashi had taken leadership of ISIS after his predecessor, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, died in 2019 after another U.S. raid. And a U.S. official emphasized the months of planning that went into this, saying they carefully considered the timing of the raid. Even so, U.S. forces were on the ground for 2 hours, an intense firefight before the mission was complete. Nicole?
It's like they just manufacture consent to stay over there in Syria no matter what. Like, oh, we just got that leader. Now it's another leader. And all they have to do is tell the public, since they made them the boogeyman, is that ISIS is there and we can't leave until ISIS is done. So every so often, every couple of years, new leaders are going to go on the board of who they have to get. So this allows the military-industrial complex to make so much money, and we're still in goddamn fucking Syria. Why are we there in the first place? We've created this whole problem, and it's just going to come back and haunt us because, you know, all these people in Syria, they're not going, whether it's military, U.S. military, British military, Western military, or it's independent contractors that we hire now, and that's the new thing. They're going to look at it as America doing it to them. And I'm afraid that one day they're going to bring the chickens home to the roost, and something really bad is going to happen here, Franco, if we keep on pushing the buttons.
If anything, there is this immense amount of negative energy that's being created, people who are feeling vengeful, because let's not forget, under Obama, there was a study that found that the civilian casualties, that rate is at 90%. 90% of people when we send drones to those countries, 90% of the people that are killed are innocent civilians. How do you think those people that are losing their loved ones are going to feel? That's an immense amount of negative energy that's being created there, right, Pasta? So like you said, that the chickens might come home to roost. I would hate to see what would happen. I think the best thing that we can do as citizens is do more citizens journalism like you and I are doing, and expose these people in power that are doing this for just money, and hopefully have these people in the global south understand this isn't what we want. Us as citizens, we don't want this. It's the people that are in charge right now that are doing this.
By the way, Dr. Urso just texted me. He's on his way. He'll be picking up soon. So let's scurry up and finish up this this topic right over here. So this is what it said. This is from this article, that same article from the News Nation right over there. It said, in Syria, President Joe Biden said the United States took every possible precaution to minimize civilian casualties in the U.S. Special Forces counterterrorism raid overnight in Syria's northwestern Idlib province that killed the leader of a violent Islamic State group. You know, look how they frame it too as well. Oh, we know, 6 children, 4 women. Out of the 13 people that you killed, 10 of them were women and children, right? I mean, but my bad. We took every precaution. It's because he was a coward and he blew himself up. Not like you didn't know he would do that anyways. And we don't even know if that's true. They might have just sprayed the whole friggin' area. Who knows? We don't know for sure. And the way they kind of frame it, the violent Islamic State group, right? To make sure that you frame them in that way. The raid targeted Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Quraishi, which I probably butchered his name. I made it sound Japanese and not Arabic. My apologies. Who took over the head of the militant group on October 31st, 2019. That's when, after, that we killed the other guy, just days after leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died during a U.S. raid in the same area. A U.S. official said he had died as al-Baghdadi did by exploding a bomb that killed himself and members of his family, including women and children, as U.S. forces approached. As casualties at the site were due to the acts of ISIS terrorists inside the residence, one of the senior Biden administration officials said, briefing reports on the mission. Next clip. U.S. Special Forces carried out what the Pentagon said was a large-scale counterterrorism raid in northwestern Syria earlier Thursday. First responders at the scene reported 13 people had been killed, including 6 children and 4 women. The operation, which residents say lasted over 2 hours, jolted the sleepy village of Atma near the Turkish border, an area dotted with camps for internally displaced people from Syria's civil war. The target of the raid was unclear. The mission was successful, Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said in a brief statement that with no casualties, more information will be provided as it becomes available. Let's just roll into Biden's clip, and then Franco, you can give your thoughts right after that.
Okay.
Good morning. Last night, operating on my orders, the United States military forces successfully removed a major terrorist threat to the world, the global leader of ISIS, known as Haji Abdullah. He took over as leader of ISIS in 2019 after the United States counterterrorism operation killed al-Baghdadi. Since then, ISIS has directed terrorist operations targeting Americans, our allies, and our partners, and countless civilians in the Middle East, Africa, and in South Asia. Haji Abdullah oversaw the spread of ISIS-affiliated terrorist groups around the world after savaging communities and murdering innocents. He was responsible for the recent brutal attack on a prison in northeast Syria holding ISIS fighters, which was swiftly addressed by our brave partners in the Syrian Democratic Forces. He was the driving force behind the genocide of the Yazidi people in northwestern Iraq in 2014. We all remember the gut-wrenching stories, mass slaughters that wiped out entire villages, thousands of women and young girls sold into slavery, rape used as a weapon of war. And thanks to the bravery of our troops, this horrible terrorist leader is no more. Our forces carried out the operation with their signature preparation and precision, and I directed the Department of Defense to take every precaution possible to minimize civilian casualties. Knowing that this terrorist had chosen to surround himself with families, including children, we made a choice to pursue a special forces raid at a much greater risk than to our own people, rather than targeting him with an airstrike. We made this choice to minimize civilian casualties. Our team is still compiling the report, but we do know that as our troops approached to capture the terrorist, in a final act of desperate cowardness, he, with no regard to the lives of his own family or others in the building, he chose to blow himself up, not just to the vest, but to blow up that 3rd floor, rather than face justice for the crimes he has committed, taking several members of his family with him, just as his predecessor did. I'm grateful for the immense courage and skill and determination of our U.S. forces, who skillfully executed this incredibly challenging mission. The members of our military are the solid steel backbone of this nation, ready to fly into danger at a moment's notice to keep our country and the American people safe, as well as our allies. And I'm also grateful to the families of our service members. You serve right alongside these soldiers and sailors, Marines, Special Forces, the loved ones, giving them the strength and support they need to do what they do. To our service members and their families, we're forever grateful for what you do for us, and we owe you a debt. Thank you. We're also aided by the essential partnership of the Syrian Democratic Forces. I want to commend our dedicated intelligence community, the Department of Defense, and members of our national security team throughout the government, whose meticulous and tireless work over the course of many months ensured that this mission succeeded. This operation is testament to America's reach and capability to take out terrorist threats no matter where they try to hide anywhere in the world. I'm determined to protect the American people from terrorist threats, and I'll take decisive action to protect this country. And we'll continue working with our close allies and partners, the Syrian Democratic Forces, the Iraqi security forces, including the Kurdish Peshmerga, and more than 80 members of the global coalition to keep pressure on ISIS to protect our homeland. We remain vigilant. We remain prepared. Last night's operation took a major terrorist leader off the battlefield, and it sent a strong message to terrorists around the world. We will come after you and find you. Once again, today, We continue our unceasing effort to keep the American people safe and to strengthen the security of our allies and partners around the world. I want to thank you all, and may God bless you, and may God protect our troops. I'm heading off to New York right now. I'm late, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
No questions there.
How many U.S. troops
No
were involved,
questions.
sir?
Went out. Oh my God, Franco, there's so many things to unpack here, dude. If you want to jump into this first, because I just took a little quick notes and it was like, excuse me, one thing after the other. Go ahead, give us your thoughts and your opinions on Uncle Joe Biden keeping us safe.
Those civilians would not have died had the U.S. not created ISIS, number one. And number two, had the U.S. not been there. And remember what we were saying, or not us, like you and I, but what the mainstream media and the State Department was saying about Bashar al-Assad. It's like, oh, he's killing civilians. He's killing his own people, gassing his own people based on, their just talking points, but not evidence. In which there's another story that happened recently of someone just repeating talking points without any evidence to back up his claims. Don't we care about the Syrian civilians?
Yeah.
Well, then why are we creating the terrorists in those countries? And why are we drone striking Syria and killing civilians there? Again, 90% civilian death rate. So not we, us, but the State Department, the mainstream media are hypocrites, especially when they're praising these drones when they're being sent out. But then they don't explain enough or focus enough on what happens when the drones hit those countries and kill these innocent civilians, that they pretend to care when it's the boogeyman that they're talking about, only for us to go in there and kill more of those innocent civilians.
Yeah. And this speech he gave is the same speech that every fucking president that we've known over the last couple decades, gives, right? He props up the military. Our men they're so great. And thank you for the intelligence community for giving us the exact locations. Yeah, right. The same speech. He demonizes the enemy and we will find you. You cannot hide. You know what I'm saying? And says he won't stop. We're going to find you. We took a major bad guy off the world platform over here by doing this, regardless of the fact that we killed all these women and children, right? Talks about our allies and makes it seem legit by saying it's like 80 different allies involved. And those forces that he keeps on talking about, that he's talking about we're collaborating with, not just our allies, the Western allies. Those are the forces like the Iraqis, the Syrians. They want us to leave. They don't want us there. This is a military industrial complex causing problems so they can make money with the blood of these people, these indigenous people there, fucking destroying the mind of our military soldiers. They come home, they kill themselves. 22 soldiers every day commit suicide because they can't deal with what they had to see and what they had to do in these other countries for like $11.50 an hour. I mean, it's disgusting all around. And I just, the next clip we're going to play right over here is something that, thank God, Oz put it in the folder right here. I believe it's Ned Price, a real reporter, Franco. You know what happens when real reporters get in people's faces.
In this instance, I don't know the history of Matt Lee, but he works for the AP. He hasn't been fired yet, but regardless, here he did the very simple thing, which we will talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, let's get this rolling.
We have previously noted our strong concerns regarding Russian disinformation and the likelihood that Moscow might seek to create a false flag operation to initiate military activity. Now, we can say that the United States has information that Russia is planning to stage fabricated attacks by Ukrainian military or intelligence forces as a pretext for a further invasion of Ukraine. One possible option the Russians are considering, and which we made public today, involves the production of a propaganda video, a video with graphic scenes of false explosions depicting corpses, crisis actors pretending to be mourners, and images of destroyed locations or military equipment, entirely fabricated by Russian intelligence. To be clear, the production of this propaganda video is one of a number of options that the Russian government is developing as a fake pretext to initiate and potentially justify military aggression against Ukraine. We don't know if Russia will necessarily use this or another option in the coming days. We are publicizing it now, however, in order to lay bare the extent of Russia's destabilizing actions towards Ukraine and to dissuade Russia from continuing this dangerous campaign and ultimately launching a military attack. Russia has signaled it's willing to continue diplomatic talks as a means to de-escalate, but actions such as these suggest otherwise. We will continue to diligently work together with our allies and partners to expose Russian disinformation and other hybrid tactics used against Ukraine. We continue to work to prevent any effort Moscow might make to justify further military action in Ukraine. We again urge Russia to stop its destructive and destabilizing disinformation campaign, to de-escalate tensions, and to engage in diplomacy and dialogue for a peaceful solution. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, well, that's quite a mouthful there. So you said actions such as these suggest otherwise, suggest meaning they suggest they're not interested in talks and they're going to go ahead with some kind of a... What action are you talking about?
One, the actions I've just pointed to.
The
fact that Russia continues to engage in disinformation campaigns.
You made an allegation that they might do that. Have they actually done it?
What we know, Matt, is what I've just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this planning activity. But let me because obviously this is not the first time we've made these reports public. You'll remember that just a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry, made what report public?
If you'll let me finish, I will tell you what report we made public. We told you a few weeks ago that we have information indicating Russia also has already prepositioned a group of operatives to conduct a false flag operation in eastern Ukraine. So that, Matt, to your question, is an action that Russia has already taken.
It's an action that you say that they have taken, but you have shown no evidence to confirm that. And I'm going to get to the next question here, which is, what is the evidence that they play? I mean, this is like crisis actors, really? This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting into now. What evidence do you have to support the idea that there is some propaganda film in the making?
Matt, this is derived from information known to the U.S. government, intelligence information that we have declassified. I think you know.
Okay, well, where is it? Where is this information?
It is intelligence information that we have declassified.
Well, where is it? Where is the declassified information?
I just delivered it.
No, you made a series of allegations and statements.
Would you like us to print out the topper? Because you will see a transcript of this briefing that you can print out for yourself.
That's not evidence, Ned. That's you saying it. That's not evidence. I'm sorry.
What would you like, Matt?
I would like to see some proof that you can show that
Matt, you have been
that shows that the Russians are doing this. Ned, I've been doing this for a long time.
I know, that was my point. You have been doing this for quite a while. You know that when we declassify intelligence information, we do so in a means we do so with an eye to protecting sources and methods.
It's not going to fall. I remember a lot of things. So where is the declassified information other than you coming out here and saying?
Matt, I'm sorry you don't like the format, but we have declassified.
It's not the format; it's the content.
I'm sorry you don't like the content. I'm sorry you are doubting the information that is in the possession of the U.S. government.
No,
what I'm telling you is that this is information that's available to us. We are making it available to you in order for a couple reasons. One is to attempt to deter the Russians from going ahead with this activity. Two, in the event we're not able to do that, in the event the Russians do go ahead with this, to make it clear as day, to lay bare the fact that this has always been an attempt on the part of the Russian Federation to fabricate a pretext.
Yeah, but you don't have any evidence to back it up other than what you're saying. It's like you're saying, we think we have information the Russians may do this, but you won't tell us what the information is.
And
then when you're asked,
that is the idea behind deterrence, Matt. That is the idea behind deterrence. It is our hope that the Russians don't go forward with this.
You say, I just gave it to you. But that's not what
you seem not to understand. You seem not to understand the idea of deterrence. We are trying to deter the Russians from moving forward with this type of activity. That is why we are making it public today. If the Russians don't go forward with this, that is not ipso facto an indication that they never had plans to do so.
But then it's unprovable. I mean, my God, what is the evidence that you have that suggests that the Russians are even planning this?
Matt,
I'm not saying that they're not, but you just come out and say this and expect us just to believe it without you showing a shred of evidence that it's actually true. Other than when I ask, or when anyone else asks, what's the information? You said, well, I just gave it to you, which was just you making a statement.
Matt, you said yourself, you've been in this business for quite a long time. You know that when we make information, intelligence information public, we do so in a way that protects sensitive sources and methods. You also know that we declassify information only when we're confident in that information. If you doubt the credibility of the U.S. government, of the British government, of other governments, and want to find solace in information that the Russians are putting out, that is for you to do.
I'm not asking what the Russian government is putting out, and what is it supposed to mean?
The video, because U.S. officials are describing.
Okay, let's get the sound up. Dr. Urso, give us 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, now, this is everybody on YouTube. We can't play this on YouTube. You know how they are. They keep suspending us, keep on taking us down, keeping us giving strikes. So now is the time. Jilly Love, if you can put that link up over to Rockfin. Dr. Urso is here. We did a little interview with Dr. Urso at the event the other day, but we're going to ask some questions we didn't get to. He also got to speak I believe at Ron Johnson's Senate hearing, which I've only got halfway through that over there. But you might know him. He was one of the doctors that spoke, I believe, was in Washington, D.C., talking about preventative medicines. I believe Donald Trump shared it and they took it down. It was like one of the first videos. It's like, what are they trying to hide? So Dr. Urso is going to join us on the Rockfin. Thank you so much, Jilly Love, for putting it up there. We're leaving YouTube in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Goodbye.